It is now 10:01. We will go ahead and begin the Judicial Committee meeting. I am calling the meeting to order. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I motion to adopt the agenda for the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda. All in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Approval of minutes from March 5th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and properly second that we approve the minutes from March 5th, 2025. All in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Minutes are adopted. Unfinished business. Now, it says there that the unfinished business was the budget request. However, if you look back at your agenda for March the 5th, Mr. Scales and Mr. Birch were appointments. They made presentations to the committee, presentations. They talked about the budget. They talked about their lawyers. They talked about a lot of things, but they were only presentations. We were the Judicial Committee. We're not the Budget Committee, and they are to present their budget request to the Budget Committee. Also, in our standing rules handbook, when it comes to committees, it says when a standing or special ad hoc committee presents a report to the assembly, we make our reports to the full council, not to another committee. That's the way it's stated. That's the way we've always done. It says the report shall not last more than 10 minutes, after which time the chair of the committee shall move the adoption of the recommendations, if any, contained in the report. If the committee report contains no recommendation for adoption, then the chair of the committee shall conclude the report by stating that the report is being filed for information and that no vote is necessary. So with that budget request coming from these two gentlemen, there's no recommendation needed because we're not a finance committee. That was my way of seeing it, and based on what, the standing rules, that's my interpretation. Is that not accurate, Mr.?
That is correct. That's what the standing rules say.
Okay.
And I think this is a little unique situation. I think the solicitor and public defender wanted to come before this committee because this committee is the Judicial Committee. Mm-hmm. But I do think really where the rubber is going to meet the road on this request is going to be at the Finance Committee. So I don't know that it would hurt for this committee to make a recommendation back to council, but I don't really see that as being necessary. I think both of them, and we can make sure of that both of them understand that they're going to need to go before the Finance Committee at the appropriate time and make probably a very similar presentation, but more focused on the exact dollars that it's going to take to fulfill those requests.
Okay. So let me hear from the committee. What is your pleasure about the unfinished business?
Don't sound like we got any.
Right. That's right.
Sounds like it goes to the Finance Committee to me. I mean, I'm not being a smart butt, but I mean, that's, I mean, I understand. I guess for me, what's the definition of this committee? What do we do as this committee?
Well, I think it was very important for them to hear from this committee for them to hear the concerns of this committee and council about the concerns of the population of the jail and stuff like that. So yeah. I feel like that was very important.
Yeah, I agree with that. But
so even though we know it's going to the Finance Committee, wouldn't it be appropriate from the Judicial Committee that we do make the recommendation that the Finance Committee further pursue this? It stated that we did view it, looked at it, et cetera.
We can do that.
That's just for
And again-
memorandum for records.
The recommendation would be to the full council. It
Right.
wouldn't be to the finance committee,
That
because
would-
we, that's not,
We don't need to do that then, because the recommendation got to go to the full council.
yeah, it goes to the full council.
I'm like, Mr. Kirkland, I recommend we do nothing.
Well, I just wanted to make sure for clarification purpose, because with the email, it was like, we were thinking we had to make a recommendation.
Right.
When in fact, we really don't.
Really don't. That's
We
correct.
didn't. And so, I just wanted clarification for that standpoint.
And if you would like, Ms. Burns, we can put on the agenda for an update from this committee to full council as to what y'all's recommendation is to it to be taken up at finance.
Yes, sir.
If y'all would like us to do that at the next meeting.
Okay. I think that's agreeable.
I agree.
Agree.
Okay. All right. That's all we had on here, but let me just say that, in talking about the detention center, we had talked, when I say we, several of us on council had talked about a plan that was implemented years before I came on council, to help reduce the detention center population. And I don't know exactly how it worked, but the solicitor's office, the public defender's office, the magistrates worked together to reduce the population, and the monies that were saved just from meals was split between them. Is that the way that kind of worked?
Yes, ma'am. In a nutshell, it did. Then you got the medical expense over there too. Something else to think about. That jail, Mr. Eubanks, did you ever get that information for me? What is the actual legal population?
No, sir, I don't know
I
that.
want to say it's around 85.
Right. Because it's broke up in two sections. You had pretrial and
In the Senate.
sentenced. But now with the population, they're using the entire facility as pretrial.
But
Pretty much.
They can now. My information is there's 12 ladies, and need to look on the, Susie, you do a great job of getting that information to us every week on the jail list. I think they are housing the females in the Senate side. And they, by law, have got to be out of sight and sound of any male, not talking about staff, but any other male inmates. So you really can't count that. But if they could get that population down to the legal part of it, and I'm just gonna throw numbers, say it's $50 a day.
Which is low. That's probably,
That's pretty close?
that's low.
Okay, that's what now?
That's very low. That's very conservative.
Okay, well, I'm just throwing numbers. Just throwing numbers. Once they get it down to the legal, however many more they get down below that, then we give them that money and they can split it. And that's one way to help fund what they want, if that makes sense.
Now, the proposal, or what I was hearing from the last meeting, with to answer Ms. Burns' question, that deal years ago, it was like 50% of the savings came back to the county, and then 25% went to the public defender, and 25% went to the solicitor. Now, if y'all fund that, if y'all choose, or finance chooses to fund that up front and give them a money up front for attorneys and stuff like that, which they were asking for, basically, that savings, all of it would come back to the county, because I would think that deal would be off the table. I mean, because y'all basically funding it up front. The savings, which you would hope would be coming in from the jail savings, would all come back to the county at that point. There would be no split, in my opinion now.
And that would in turn offset what you're doing in the budget.
Correct. It would always go back in the general fund.
I mean, it really just would not be spent.
Exactly.
You know, you would not have that many inmates, so you're not spending as much on medical, meals.
You would be recouping some of the investment on the front end.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
That would have to be
And,
something they would agree to
That's-
do, and
that's
it's not
correct.
considered a budget, because once you give it to them, you can't take that back. So it's
That's
not gonna be a
correct.
budgeted
That's
item.
why it needs to be on a contract basis. Whoever they hire need to work for us,
Right.
my opinion. I was told, I don't know how accurate this is, but I feel like it's pretty accurate, that it costs between $5,000 and $6,000 a week just to feed as many as we got. Just to feed them.
That's the sheriff's statement, he did state that.
We've got to do something, and I'll agree with Mr. Ford, if we build a 300-bed facility, it'll be full.
Yeah.
It's gonna be full. And
Well,
they've got to move cases. That was why I was on them so the other day. Between now and whenever the committee meets, they need to be moving cases instead of dilly-dallying around in there, not being prepared or something going on that's keeping us from having what I call bench time. And if that judge is supposed to be here for 40 hours that week, not unless something happens, I want to see us get 40 hours of bench time. And Tim, you said most of the time it's around 10? If that,
They're usually there, I mean, they're on the bench. But like I said, I know a lot of
10
stuff
hours a
takes
week.
place, you know, behind the scenes and stuff like that. But I do feel like they've got to get better prepared for
they
it.
ought to have those cases ready to go. Because my understanding is they call the jail or sheriff's office or whoever and say, we want this one, this one, this one, this one. Say there's 8 or 9 of them.
Right.
Bring them up, keep them there every day, and then never, just bring them back. They're never seen. I mean, that's a waste of time and resources, in my opinion. But those cases ought to be moved, and we're adding to it every day. Every day we're adding to it. Some of them been in there for 3 years. What is the problem with that?
So we obviously got a major problem, and it's multifaceted.
Pull your mic down some, buddy.
I said we obviously have a problem, and it's multifaceted. I think everybody can do better. I pulled some numbers while I was sitting here. Just off the jail list, I broke it down: murder, rape, criminal sexual conduct, attempted murder, armed robbery, assault and battery, high and aggravated nature, criminal domestic violence, high and aggravated nature, and kidnapping. Has anybody got a clue how many of those are sitting in the jail right now? It's 51.
That's half of it.
51 violent offenders sitting in that jail.
45% of the population.
Correct. So I don't want to spend any more money than we absolutely have to. I'll make that clear. But if we look historically, let's just say we get 10 terms of general sessions. I think we got 12 last year. But if we get, we can say 12 terms, that's one a month. You will be very, very lucky to get 2 trials in a year's time. Because if you do trials, you can't do pleas. Right. If you do pleas, you can't do a trial. So the only way they can balance the docket the best way they can to offset the newly occurred crimes is to have more pleas than they do trials. But we're not doing any justice by our citizens, our victims, or the defendants. If we have 2 trials a year, how can we cut down on this 51 number? It's not possible. There's no way possible, because we get more new offenders than 2 a year, so we're going backwards. Now, I totally agree that everybody can do better, but if we don't really go at this diligently, if we don't go at this, and I think we need to invest up front in prosecution at this point. And if we do, we can turn around and say, Mr. Solicitor, we gave you more than what you asked for. It's on you. And shame on you if you can't perform, because he can't say that we didn't give them the funding. Now, I don't think we need to give it to them on their budget. I think we need to do it on a contract. But I spoke with Mr. Birch yesterday and specifically said, if we could find a way to fund 2 prosecutors and 1 public defender, could you guarantee us that every month that you have a general sessions court date, somebody is prepared to stand in front of a jury that is there to either take a plea or go to trial if we could get you 2 people? And he says we can do that. And so that gives us, what he's guaranteeing us is he's guaranteeing us that we're going to move 12 of those violent people every year. And I think that's really reasonable, because what else that would do is, if he's got 2 veteran attorneys that can work on just violent people that's sitting in that jail, January can be one of those guys' month, February can be the next guy, and they keep alternating. That way they got 60 days to prepare a trial. And that's the only time those defendants will come in front of the judge and take a plea. They can make them all the offers they want to, but the rubber don't meet the road until they know that they're walking in there and something's gonna happen. That's when they're gonna take a plea. So if we could do this to try to make it the most efficient we can, there has to be an A team and a B team. The A team being the 2 trial people, the B team being the lawyers that we already have. The B team would be working strictly on pleas. So on Monday morning, when the trial guys walk in there and say, all right, here's our defendant, we're gonna go to trial, or you gonna plea right now? If they take a plea, the B team already has all their pleas on deck, where they can move right in and they can finish the rest of that week out with pleas. That way you move one violent and you still have pleas. But if we don't do something on the front end to bring a solution to the table, everybody's gonna be disappointed. I told Mike, I said, Mike, if we give you 1, I'm telling you right now that we're gonna be disappointed, because you're not gonna be able to perform to a standard to even see results with what we have. I think this is the only solution to the problem. I ain't getting nothing out of this. I ain't got nothing. My brother ain't got nothing to do with this. He's in Darlington County. I'm let that be known right now.
Right.
I'm trying to bring a solution to the table. I don't want to give them anything, but I know that that's a core function of government, and we owe it to our citizens to get them justice. We owe it to the victims to get justice, but we owe it to the defendants that they don't sit over there for all this time. I think this is the only option that I've been able to brainstorm. So, I mean, I'll try to lay it out any different way that I can, but I tried to break it all the way down. I mean, we got 11 murders. This isn't even the ones we're holding for other people. This is just the ones that we have in our jail for us. So we got 11 murders, 7 rape, criminal sexual conducts, 15 attempted murders, 7 robberies, and the robberies are not 3rd degrees. The robberies are all strong arm robbery or 1st degree. Assault and battery, high and aggravated nature, we got 2. Criminal domestic violence, high and aggravated nature, we have 3. And kidnapping, we have 6.
If I remember right, Heath, you helped me. Judge Bull Lockermy called me down to Darlington. He's another member, I forgot. But we actually hired J.R. Joyner to be the prosecutor, one of the prosecutors for this county. It didn't last that long, maybe a year or so, but that was him fresh out of law school, wasn't it?
Right, that's correct.
It's a complicated situation, and it's gonna take teamwork to get it done. And I don't wanna hear from either one of them, well, it's COVID. COVID was 5 years ago. It's time to move forward. We could have done a lot of these trials remotely, but they didn't do anything. I'm tired of those folks sitting in jail. They tired of sitting in jail. Some of them, I guarantee, if you go over there today, would plead straight up and finish out their time at SCDC just to get out of that overcrowded hellhole they living in right now.
But I agree with Ethan, though. He's absolutely right. Plan that he laid out, you couldn't have done it any better. That's the only way that's gonna work. I agree with you on that.
I'd like to talk to both of them myself, if that's legal or ethical or whatever. No problem?
As long as it's just you individually.
Sir,
As long as it's just you, as long as it's not a quorum of a committee.
I got you, I got you.
Yeah, and I think they're open for anybody like that.
Absolutely.
If y'all got questions, yeah, y'all feel free to contact them.
I've met with both of them, for full transparency, I've met with both of them. They were together, just me, and had brutal conversation. And if I knew a different way that didn't cost us money, I'd be the first one sitting here saying, we don't need to give them no money. But I don't see any other way to go at this. And knowing that we can't afford to build a jail, and if we do raise taxes to build a jail, they're gonna fill it up.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be right back where we are.
Well, the old system they used, matter of factly, they just let them sit there till they got ready to plead. Just let them sit there. And heck, a lot of them, when they did plead, be done with time served, because they've sat over there that long. And I'm ready to do whatever we need to do, but yet I want those employees to be our employees. And I want those two elected, and they're elected officials just like we are. I want them to understand that this council is very serious about cleaning up that jail. And we had one judge here about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I can't remember his name, it'll come to me. But he was sent here just to clean up some of the murder trials, the older ones that was here. Is that something that they still do?
I mean, that would be something, ultimately the Chief Justice, the court administration
I mean, I can call and inquire, couldn't I?
assigns, judges in terms of court. It is my understanding, I think, that we may be getting some additional terms of General Sessions Court. May be wrong on that. And that's something that the Chief Justice, again, through court administration.
I think they tried to add some non-jury to do pleas.
Right, that's correct, you're correct. But yeah, going back to what Ethan said, when you look at that jail list and you look at the people that have been there 1,000 days or whatever, those are your serious cases, and the only way those are gonna get taken care of is a solicitor and a public defender are gonna have to get ready for trial. That's gonna take a long time. And they may get there and they may plead at the beginning of the week. But until that happens, they're gonna be happy to sit there and just let their time run.
Time is on their side.
Exactly. I mean, for a defendant, time helps them.
And this is,
I honestly believe if, and word gets around, if they know that the hanging judge is coming, ain't nobody gonna plead.
Well,
We got a harsh
If you
judge.
put a system in place, like Ethan just said, and for the record, well, off the record, but attorney, your former solicitor, Attorney Jay Hars, agreed with this layout that you talking about wholeheartedly. He said it will work. You talking about somebody with some experience. So you got the right people believing it. I think that's the route we need to go.
Do we need to make a recommendation to the finance committee to see, I understand that we don't, but I mean, I'd like it to be known that this committee is willing to help and do what we can as long as we're financially able to do what we can. I understand the procedures are that we don't have to make any decisions or anything like that, but One, I would like to make a recommendation to the Finance Committee that if this committee sees fit, to take the plan of action as two attorneys for the solicitors and one being for the public defender. That being to the Finance Committee. And then second, I don't know if it's the county's decision or what committee's decision is for the contractual matter, it being that we recommend, our recommendation being that we do a contract with the solicitor's office and the public defender's office for, I've had some conversations with Mr. Birch also, and he seems to think that, you know, you give me a contract for 1 year, it's gonna fail. I mean, just for the simple fact of the time it takes to hire a person and get them equipped with what they need to work with. So, I mean, I brainstormed it myself, and I mean, I would like to see at least a 3-year contract, if the committee sees fit for that. But I'm with everybody that sits on this committee that we've got to do something. I mean, we've got to do something to help to say that basically what Ethan said, we give you this, now make it happen. And if you can't, we'll go back to feeding them, you know? But that's just my recommendation.
Do we need to, Ms. Burns, would it be, or Heath, would it be better off if this committee, kind of agreed on the direction, but it was a question of where do we send the recommendation to? Could we use it as a recommendation to council, but run it through finance first to see if it's affordable or how we're going to fund it before council votes on it?
Doesn't it need to go as a recommendation to council? And the council assigns it to finance
Right.
to see how to work that out.
Yeah, recommendation from any committee would go back to council. And then,
The Finance Committee is on council, then they'll hear it.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just saying to save time.
Yeah.
That was my only thing.
The process is to recommend to council, and the council assigns it to the committee.
And that's what we was talking about. I'll put it on the agenda for Ms. Burns to present to council, because it'll be at the next council meeting. And we're not gonna meet with finance until after that meeting, so.
Yeah, I'm
she
fine.
can- And then council can in turn lay it right in
By
front.
law, that's the way we're supposed to do it.
Well, Mr. Eubank,
by the rules, yeah.
so for clarity, I like procedure. Can you give us a statement on how you laid that out so they can have it at the council meeting? It'd be crystal clear for all of your council members. You don't have to be redundant about repeating it again, but it's on paper. We can read it, we can retain it. If you do that, that'll be great.
Okay, is there anything else? Hear nothing, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adjourn. Meeting is adjourned.
Did we make the motion to
The recommendation.
recommendation to council?
I thought he made it.
No, I'll just put it on the agenda, and
Okay,
she'll do
okay,
all that at the
okay,
next council
okay.
meeting.
I didn't know if we didn't have to vote on it or not. I'm good.